I can't imagine how these ugly rumors start.
Me neither. Why do they think up stories that link my name with yours?
Why do the neighbors chatter all day behind their doors?
I know a way to prove what they say is quite untrue. Here is the gist, a practical list of do's.
Yep.
For you. Don't throw bouquets at me.
Oh.
Don't please my folks too much.
Aunt Ella.
Don't laugh at my jokes too much. People will say we're in love.
Who laughs at your jokes?
Don't sigh and gaze at me. Your sighs are so like mine. Your eyes mustn't glow like mine. People will say we're in love. Don't start collecting things.
Whoa, like what?
Give me my rose and my glove.
No.
Sweetheart, they're suspecting things. People will say we're in love.
Some people claim that you are to blame as much as I. Why do you take the trouble to bake my favorite pie?
It is?
Granting your wish, I carved our initials on the tree. Just keep a slice of all the advice you give so free. Don't praise my charm too much. Don't look so vain with me. Don't stand in the rain with me. People will say we're in love. Don't take my arm too much.
Let go.
Don't keep your hand in mine. Your hand feels so grand in mine. People will say we're in love. Don't take stars fade from above. They'll see it's all right with me. People will say we're in love.
Good morning. My name is Patricia Devine. I'm a member of the Worship and Music Committee. Welcome to the First Parish Plymouth Summer Services. The theme for today's service is Language of Love and is presented by our brilliant Vaughn Keller. We are not providing fellowship hour during the summer. However, there's a lovely coffee house down the street where many of us convene, and please join us there if you're able after the service. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your journey, please walk together with us today.
Good morning. My name is Vaughn Keller. I use he and him and his, and it's good to see all of your faces on this warm, muggy, cloudy day. Our opening words this morning, or the call to worship this morning, is from the poet Elizabeth Barrett Browning, back in the Romantic period of the 1800s. She wrote this song. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach, when feeling out of sight for the ends of being an ideal grace. I love thee to the level of every day's most quiet need, by sun and candlelight. I love thee freely, as men strive for right. I love thee purely, as they turn from praise. I love thee with the passion put to use in my old griefs and with my childhood's faith. I love thee with a love I seem to lose with my lost saints. I love thee with the breath, smiles, tears of all my life, and if God choose, I shall but love thee better after death. Usually we would have a hymn at this point and stand, but I'm going to invite you to sit, because I think it is a tune that those of us of a certain generation know extremely well. Sandy?
And
Please stand for our lighting of the chalice. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, to speak the truth in love, and to help one another. Please be seated. Our reading this morning comes from a novel, Truth in Advertising, I wrote it, called Tiernan Oak. In the novel, the main character is a reporter for a small newspaper in Bath, Maine. And every Friday he has to produce some kind of local story. And this is the one that he wrote on Valentine's Day in 1986. I was rescued today by my 11-year-old daughter. She was sealing an envelope at breakfast, and I asked her what she was mailing. She shyly told me it was a Valentine. I was tempted to ask her who it was for, but her shyness was sufficient for me to say nothing. Valentine's Day was not a big day in my family when I was growing up. Even the Catholic Church has downgraded the day associated with St. Valentine. But florists, purveyors of greeting cards, and chocolatiers have certainly not followed suit, especially the chocolatiers. Like the Mayans, they too worship a cacao god, only his name is St. Valentine. They should. 60 million pounds of chocolate were sold this week. 75% of the buyers were men. Perhaps it's not surprising. Chocolate, it's supposed to be considered by some an aphrodisiac. But what is a man to do if your beloved does not like chocolate? An acquaintance of mine, we'll call him Norm, is married to a wonderful woman, we'll call her Claire. Claire is one of society's heroes. She works for the main office of Child and Family Services. She's a field worker out on the front lines, helping children suffering from neglect, abandonment, abuse, and sometimes unpredictable horrors. And Claire does it well. She has never allowed herself to become hardened. It's not a job for Claire, it's a calling. Now, Maine is a poor state, as you know. We along the mid-coast have our share of poverty, but Claire works inland where it is very bad. Almost 20% of the people are poor. Poverty like that is always a breeding ground for drug abuse, alcoholism, and family violence. And that's the world in which children are often forgotten, victims of a world that doesn't see them. Now, Norm is a good husband and is proud of the work that Claire does. He also relishes her qualities as a mother to their 3 children and her companionship. He admits that he's still in the helping out mode of being a spouse partner. His mother never worked, so his expectations for marriage never included a wife who had a full-time job that was so demanding. Nevertheless, he tells me that he really tries. Now, for years he told me Valentine's Day perplexed him. He reported, Claire had her sweet tooth removed along with her wisdom teeth. So he tried flowers, but she complained that they died too soon and she didn't have any time to trim them and arrange them anyway. She was appreciative of the thought, she would say, but a card was enough. He didn't need to do anything more. So for several years, he didn't. He took her at her word and always got her a card. However, feeling subpar as a husband, he started buying multiple cards in various sizes with pop-outs, with singing, and every other invention the card manufacturers came up with. Eventually, Claire told him enough was enough and he was overdoing it. 2 years ago, he came upon a solution though. He knew Claire loved potatoes, truly loved them in any form, mashed, baked, roasted, fried. She wasn't fussy. He told her once, Claire, your nickname ought to be Spud. She was a Maine gal after all. His Valentine's Day solution came to him in a bar on St. Patrick's Day where they were serving green beer. So when Valentine's Day rolled around, Norm knew what he was going to do, and he had his surprise all prepared. He told her before she left that morning for work that he would take care of dinner. Now that was not unusual, but it was usually meant picking up a pizza. Claire liked pizza, so she thought, that's nice, I don't have to cook tonight. However, when she got home, the table was set more formally than usual. A single card was waiting for her when she sat down. The kids were giggling like mad. They were in on the secret. Finally, Norm brought out a dinner of steak, vegetables, and a covered dish he put in front of Claire. Everyone was smiling. Their youngest said, "Open it, Mommy, open it." And she did. And in front of her was a big dish of red mashed potatoes shaped like a heart. It was a hit. There were leftovers, so Claire enjoyed her present for a couple of nights. I can't speak to whether or not mashed potatoes are an aphrodisiac or not, but I do know Norm enjoyed telling me the story of their best Valentine's Day ever. Me, inspired by my daughter, I did stop at the drugstore and got some chocolates for my wife on the way back to work. She's not a Whitman sampler person, so I got her the biggest bag of Hershey Kisses that they had. She'd share if I asked, but I won't. We all have our own song of love. Sandy?
It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside. I don't know, I'm not one of those who can easily hide. I don't have much money, but if I did, I'd buy a big house where we both could live. If I was a sculptor, but then again no, or a man who makes potions in a traveling show. I know it's not much, but it's the best I can do. This gift is my song, and this one's for you. And you can tell everybody this is your song. It may be quite simple, but now that it's done, I hope you don't mind, I hope you don't mind that I put down in words how wonderful life is when you're in the world. I sat on the roof and I kicked at the moss, but a few of the verses, well, they got me quite cross. But the sun's been quite kind while I wrote this song. My gift is my song, and you keep it turned on. So excuse me for getting, but these things I do, you see, I've forgotten if they're green or they're blue. Anyway, the thing is what I really mean. Yours are the sweetest eyes I've ever seen. And you can tell everybody this is your song.
Going to ask you to do a little bit of participation this morning at various times, so be prepared for it. In our first principle, we promise one another that we are going to affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. And we have a covenant. We promised one another this morning that love is the spirit of this church. Both of these call for some pretty heavy lifting. Now, when we talk about the sources of our Unitarian Universalist beliefs, we cite several. We talk about the world's religion, we talk about earth-centered traditions, and we call upon our own Judeo-Christian roots. Now, there are differences among all of these. One of the major differences I want to mention, but it's a generalization, and it's this. It's between Judaism and Christianity. Judaism is a home-based religion. Many of the celebrations in Judaism take place in home. Christianity, by contrast, is much more church-based. Now, that's a generalization, but there are definitely some things there. This morning, I'm going to ask you to be more Jewish than Christian. I want to focus on your religion at home. Now, we say love is the spirit of this church. Consider love is the spirit of this home, your home. What better place to start doing the heavy lifting than at home? Spouses, significant others, children, parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, grandparents, dear friends, even Cousin John deserves some loving. By home, I don't mean the physical structure. I mean our intimate system, the emotional space that includes close friends, as well as children, grandchildren, and so on. My friend of 50 years, Robin Elliott, refers to me as Brother Keller. That's how he talks about me. Robin is part of my home. You know what I mean. Within our homes, though, variation is immense. I have 4 children. They are so different, I wonder where on earth they came from. Any of you who are parents and have kids, you know what I'm talking about. Part of the heavy lifting of love has to do with differences. Recognizing them, accepting them, responding to them. Chocolates to mashed potatoes. Difference. And yet, even with all of this variety, we have wonderful, magical moments together, and where the experience of being one is exquisite. When this happens with lovers, we call it romance. When it happens with family and friends, we call it connection. Those magical, wonderful moments where the connection is just so vibrant, and we relish it. We're going to have a bit of musical fun with the heavy lifting this morning. After all, it is summer, and love is in the air. So let's get to it. Now, if somebody wrote me a love song or a poem the way Elizabeth Barrett Browning did, I think I might be a little bit overwhelmed. That proclamation was aimed in my direction. I'm a romantic by nature, but that romantic, I'm not sure. I don't know. The question, though, how do I love thee? The question is something else. That's something I can relate to, as I am sure we all can. How do I love thee? How do I love thee? I'm sure we've all heard the saying that love is an action word. So the question is a good one. How do we express our love? And equally important, do we express it in a way that our beloved, even if it's Brother Robin, feels loved? Or does my Cupid's arrow miss the mark? Gary Chapman is a marriage and family therapist, and in his work with couples, he observed that couples often did miss the target in expressing their love. When they missed their beloved, the target, they often felt unloved, unappreciated, and invisible. Chapman's conclusion, after years and years of thinking about this, was that it wasn't always the absence of love that was hurting a relationship, but the "how do I love thee" question was coming up with a wrong answer. Cupid was missing the mark. My hunch is that everyone here, at one time or another, has felt unloved, unappreciated, and invisible, whether as a spouse, a parent, a child, or a friend. That led Chapman to pay more attention to the how question. Eventually, he started to codify his observations, and he identified what he called the 5 languages of love. He published a book about it, got a lot of attention, still does. Some of you may have read it. Well, what you may not know is that psychological researchers decided to question, is there really anything to what Chapman's saying? And they did a series of studies, and guess what? They concluded that Chapman was absolutely right on the mark. The model stood up to the rigors of research. His idea is that there are 5 distinct ways in which we express our love. In other words, Cupid had better have 5 arrows in that quiver. Unfortunately, of course, most of us are not Cupid. We only have a couple. Now, while Chapman started with intimate couples, he wondered about intimate relationships with other core people in our intimate system. With parent to child, sibling to sibling, friendships. And yes, the research said it applies there as well. Complicated, this love stuff. Do I love my brother the way he wants to be loved? Do I even think about it? Do I even think about it? So let's start with the 5 categories that Chapman came up with. And here's where I'm going to ask you to participate a little bit. Try them on for size. How do you love someone? And as importantly, how do you want to be loved? For most of us, how we want to be loved is probably how we go about trying to express our love. Or beware, thinking everyone is just like me is a mistake, one that I have made on too many occasions. Mashed potatoes, anyone? Now, we probably use all 5 of these different methodologies, love languages. So it's best to think of them as a hierarchy rather than absolutes. What do I tend to do first, second, third, fourth, and fifth? How would you rank order them? How do you like to be loved? And how do you love? Number 1, words of affirmation. People who favor words of affirmation as a love language value verbal acknowledgments of affection, including frequent I love yous, compliments, words of appreciation, verbal encouragement, and today, frequent digital communication, like texting. Written and spoken shows of affection matter the most to these people. Personally, it's number 1 for me. I'm a glutton for words of affirmation. So to help you remember it, please say affirmation. Affirmation. Second is quality time. People who favor quality time feel the most adored when their partner actively wants to spend time with them and is always open to just hanging out together. They particularly love when active listening, eye contact, and full presence are prioritized hallmarks in the relationship. If this is how your beloved feels loved, though, be careful. Don't get distracted. They want your full undivided attention. Put the cell phone away if that's how they feel loved. Their love language is all about giving your undivided attention to that special person without the distraction of television, phone screens, or any other outside interference. They have a strong desire to actively spend time with you, having meaningful conversations or sharing recreational activities. So the second one is quality time. Say, quality time. Number 3, acts of service. If your love language is acts of service, you value when your beloved goes out of their way to make your life easier. If things like bringing you soup when you're sick, making you coffee in the morning, picking up your dry cleaning, whatever helps you get through a busy day. This love language is for people who believe that actions speak louder than words. Unlike those, like me, who prefer to hear how much they're cared for, people on this list like to be shown how they're appreciated. Doing the smaller and bigger chores to make their lives easier or more comfortable is cherished by these folks. Say, acts of service. Acts of service. And then, of course, there are gifts. Gifts is pretty straightforward love language. You feel loved when people give you visual symbols of love. As Chapman calls it, it's not about the monetary value, but the symbolic thought behind the item. People with this style recognize and value the gift-giving process, the careful reflection, the deliberate choosing of the object to represent the relationship and the emotional benefits from receiving the present. People whose love language is receiving gifts enjoy being gifted, something that is both physical and meaningful. The key to give meaningful things, of course, that matter is to reflect their values, not yours. Gifts. Say, gifts. Physical touch. This is my number 2. People with physical touch as their love language feel loved when they receive physical signs of affection, including kissing, holding hands, cuddling on the couch, and with significant other sex. Physical intimacy and touch can be incredibly affirming and serve as an emotional connector for people with this love language. People who communicate their appreciation through this language when they consent to it feel appreciated when they are hugged, kissed, or cuddled. They value the feeling of warmth and comfort that comes with physical touch. Where's the fall on your hierarchy? Say touch. Touch. There you have it. 5 arrows for your quiver. Affirmations, quality time, gifts, doing things for one another, and physical affection. As I mentioned, you can apply this to any intimate relationship. Partner, parents, children, close friends. Yeah, the specific expression will vary depending on the nature of the relationship, but the core language remains the same. So now come the challenges. There are 3. First, do you know your beloved's preferred way of receiving love? Sometimes it's really easy to figure out. Most of us deliver love language, or love messages, in the same way we want to receive them. So I can consciously look at my beloved and how they love me. Or I can do something ridiculously simple. I can ask. This is one of the most powerful questions I ever learned when I was doing marriage and family therapy training. When do you feel loved? When do you feel loved? And you can ask that of a child. You can ask it of a sibling. You can ask it of anyone. When do you most feel loved? Remember Fiddler on the Roof? Tevye asked his wife Goldie the question, "Do you love me?" You remember that? She gets irritated. And she answers, "For 25 years I've milked his cow, washed his clothes." And she goes on and on and on. "And now he wants to know if I love him?" Tevye has to keep pushing for an answer. Finally, after multiple pushes, Goldie says, "I suppose I do." And this wonderful duet concludes by them singing together, "After 25 years, it's nice to know." And that's it in a nutshell. It's nice to know. The second challenge is, how flexible am I? Even though it may not be my preferred way of receiving love, am I flexible enough to provide my beloved with what they want and, yes, need, since we all need love? This can be tough. We can fall into the trap of thinking, "Why can't you accept my love the way I want to love you?" Well, the answer to that is real simple. Because I'm not you, Buster. I'm different. Deal with it. I think adjusting to the love language of someone else gets easier with time, with understanding, with communication, but we may need reminders. Perhaps it's a stick-it note, or putting a note in my computer calendar. Remember, so-and-so needs 5 hugs a day, or remember to buy the Ben and Jerry's Cherry Garcia. You know, not the chocolate New York, the Cherry Garcia. Third, and this is often the hardest, am I brave enough to ask for what I need? Or can I be Tevye? That's not being selfish. It is scary, though. What if the other says no? Or if they say yes and don't follow through? That's an ouch of the highest order. We have to be careful, though, that we don't fall into the trap of saying to ourselves or out loud, "If you loved me, you would." We just turned a request into an accusation. Talk about Cupid missing the mark. The little guy just shot himself in the foot. Now, getting it right might take some trial and error. The fellow in the story I read earlier went from chocolates to greeting cards and finally got it right with mashed potatoes. That's probably the way it is for most of us. We keep trying until we get it right. It helps, though, if we get a little help from our beloved, and knowing these 5 languages of love may help to do that. No one said it was going to be easy, but worth it? Ah, yeah, love is always worth it. And as Tevye and Goldie sing together, it's nice to know. Now, what does this all have to do with love being the spirit of this church? Let me try and draw a couple of dots here. Intimate relations feed upon one another. I believe that. If I'm having a tough day with some friends or my kids or my significant other, it's going to affect my attitudes towards life and my ability to love in other situations. People see us and they might think, "You're sure cranky today, Vaughn," or "You okay?" I believe that when love is abundant in our intimate systems, it spills over and it affects everything. Now, let me also suggest that when we as a church community create an environment of love, when love truly is the spirit, it also feeds back into our intimate systems. It provides us with the strength, sometimes a respite from troubles, and with validation. So ask the question, when do you feel the most loved? And listen, really listen. Then have a quiver full of different arrows for different folks, because for all of us, it's really nice to know. And now it's time for our offering. 15% of the money you provide today will be given to the work of the South Shore Community Action Council, and we're going to sing while you're being generous. Let's take a couple of minutes to consider those in our lives who need our love today, this afternoon, this evening, tomorrow. What might we do to bring love into their lives more fully? What arrows in our quiver might we draw upon? Let's just take a minute in silence to think about these people. And let us join together in singing Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come.
We extinguish this flame, but not the love in our hearts. Our time has come to an end. Go in peace. Bring our covenant with you as you go. Help those who need help. Seek the truth. Speak it in love. Bring love to those you touch.
Love. Golden, do you love me?
Do I what?
Do you love me?
Do I love you?
Well,
With our daughters getting married and there's trouble in the town, you're upset, you're worn out. Go inside, go lie down. Maybe it's indigestion.
no, Golden, I'm asking you a question. Do you love me?
You're a fool.
I know. But do you love me?
Do I love you?
Well.
For 25 years I've washed your clothes, cooked your meals, cleaned your house, given you children, milked your cow. After 25 years, why talk about love right now?
Golden, the first time I met you was on our wedding day. I was scared.
I was shy.
I was nervous.
So was I.
But my father and my mother said we'd learn to love each other. And now I'm asking, Golden, do you love me?
I'm your wife.
I know. But do you love me?
Do I love him?
Well?
For 25 years I've lived with him, fought with him, starved with him. 25 years my bed is his. If that's not love, what is?
That you love me.
I suppose I do.
And I suppose I love you too. It doesn't change a thing, but even so, after 25 years, here